Hi everybody, Giselle Grenier here from artplace.ca. In today's workshop, we're going to be working on another book of backgrounds page. And this one here, on the other side is this texture stuff. I have no idea what to do with this. Literally have no idea. I may just paint it with gesso and see what happens. But this is, I'm down to now the parts where the backgrounds, I either don't want to touch them because they're art pieces on their own, or nothing is inspiring me. That's one of these. But on the other side, this is a really cool one. Now I'm going to give you an idea of the supplies used if you were going to use a decor art media. I did all this stuff, most of my earlier stuff for Book of Backgrounds was with the Traditions paints, and I would add a lot of water to them to make them more fluid. Decor Art just came out with a new fluid acrylic line called Decor Art Media, and it's amazing. Same strong pigments as the Traditions, but they're just a bit more fluid. So with this here, the video for this is available on my blog and on my YouTube channel. But just to give you a rough overview, basically take the page, collage. I took maps, old maps and book papers and all that stuff. Use the matte medium to glue it down, and then another coat of matte medium to seal everything. And then using blue, green, light, titanium white, just roughly smush it all over, okay? And then with the butterfly stencil, and let's say, quinacridone red, any real red will do fine, stencil, and then you can take paper towel or baby wipe, put it on top and lift it up to wipe out some of the areas. I mean, that's a very quick overview. But like I said, the video to do this is available on my blog and on my YouTube channel. All the supplies I do use for this project will be listed at the end of the video, so you don't have to take notes. And like with most of my videos, they're geared towards beginners, so I will be very detailed. I don't edit out mistakes. I don't skip anything. So if you view this and you're more advanced, just fast forward. I would rather a beginner not be left with any questions, so because you can always fast forward. We're going to be working with stencils today. I have a whole bunch of stencils, and I want to show you basically how to do some layering with some stencils. So to start, I basically picked out, ow, I love this, and this is inspired from my Art a Day 365 Art a Day project, and here's a little owl that I did, and this information will be at the end of the video as well. This is a free group that I set up, and with this, this is what's inspired me. So I'm going to use this stencil for the owl. I've got my kaleidoscope stencil. I've got the funky flare stencil. These are all from Deco Art. The uppercase and lowercase. And I've got this cute little button alphabet stamp as well. Not really going to do anything other than just to add some texture. So colors will be kept to a minimum. And I've got, let's see, Derelid yellow, quinacridone gold, transparent yellow iron oxide, and cerulean blue. I think, you know what, I better do it now. Let me get some Payne's Gray. And Payne's Gray is simply made with the blue, you make, let's say, 2 parts ultramarine blue, 1 part burnt sienna. You can take phthalo blue with a red, and a green and some black, all different things. I'm just going to use the one that's made up in the bottle just to save some time. Brushes. I got some really funky brushes here. I've got this big sweet brush. It's a, when I look at this, I keep thinking of Mia's tail. And I got some stencil brushes, and then as well my reserve brushes. I've got some filberts. I may use them, may not, I don't know. First thing I want to do is I just want to lighten up this background because I do want to make the background more the yellow oranges. Well, best way to do that is we could gesso it, but you know what? I don't want it completely opaque. I'm going to use translucent white. See a color I already forgot. Like I said, everything that I use will be at the end of the video, so you don't need to take notes. This holds an awful lot of water. Now fully saturate the brush, and let's get that in there. And you can do this as many times as you want. And you can also use this to create, I love this brush, the texture that it creates. And I'm going to add a little bit more. And I'm thinking where the yellow is going to be, I want to obscure that a little bit more. So I'm going to cover up some of the green areas. Wipe off where it says Lake Ontario. Want to see that. I love this brush for this. That's it. In the water. If you can let this dry naturally, it would be best. That way you're going to retain all the bubbles and splotches. Using a heat gun, it may flatten things out. You have more time than I do, so I'm going to do this anyways. Now, because this is a collage piece, be very careful with the temperature of the heat gun. Make sure it's just high enough that your hand can stay there comfortably, because you don't want to dissolve any glue or tape or whatever you use to stick the paper down. And depending, again, what's on the other side, if you followed the book of backgrounds, if you followed my instructions, depending on what you have on the back side, it may be a good piece of art, so you don't want to, oops, there goes my pen, you don't want to ruin that. Oh, this retains some really good splotches. The reason why I want to keep the splotches is when we add our transparent colors, they're going to look like little circles, like paint splats. But this has to be bone dry before you glaze with the color. Now, glazing is adding a transparent layer of color over a previously dry layer. So adding transparency over this is glazing. And the more layers you add, depending on the colors, you get what's called optical color mixing. Because everything is transparent, as the light shines through the layers, everything is color mixed. Not like physical mixing on the palette. There we go. And anytime you use the heat gun, make sure your surface has time to come back to room temperature before you apply any paint. And this is taking a little bit longer to cool down because I've got the crackle stuff on the back. That's pretty good. Well, let's see what happens. So I'm going to put out... First, I'm going to wipe down my palette. No point in throwing the sheet out. You do not want a speck of white paint from now on. White paint bad. So let's go with Stenciled Yellow. Quinacridone Gold. Now, if you were using the Traditions, you can still stick with Stenciled Yellow and Quinacridone Gold. Do we have, I believe we have a Quinacridone Gold. All the colors here that are with the fluid acrylics, there is a matching color in the Traditions. I believe for, not for all of them, but for most of them. And let's get some Payne's Gray out there. And give your paints a really good shake. I am not worried about shaking so much because I've been painting all day. This is still not quite light enough for me, but it's fine for now. And we're going to go with a large, I'll take my 1-inch oval wash. Now I love anything that's oval or filbert shaped, I love working with those. Let's get some letters back there first. Let's stencil some letters. So I'm going to just take that and I'm going to work with my stencil brushes. You can use the number 8 Bristle Bright as well if you want. And just going to randomly just stencil some letters. No rhyme or reason. Just don't make like a square or a pattern. Just kind of make them all over the place. When we glaze our yellow and everything on top, it will change the color of this. Well, let's get some numbers in there. I'm going to go straight across. This is strictly to add interest to the background. It doesn't really matter what it is. You can stamp, you can stencil, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. Just keep the color relatively the same value as the red. So same darkness. Brightness doesn't matter. Something like that. And right away, clean your stencil. Now let's clean it this way. I don't know how much will transfer through. I didn't use a lot of paint. Not a lot. And you can tell that I've been doing it with other stuff. I must be just getting the right blend of paint. And clean your stencils right away. I am terrible for cleaning stencils. If you have a bucket of water on this waiting for you, that's fine. And I'm going to just quickly dry this. It's all about layering. And when you layer, what I'm doing here, it has to be dry. And so Mr. Owl is going to go right about here. Now, if it were the page was on this side, I'd put him over here. I'm going to put him over here. And it's basically going to be about being smart. And I put the oval here. And I can put some random, I'm going to stencil some words. I'm going to read, book, that type of thing. And put that stencil in there. So I want to stencil the owl dark. This can go. So I'm just figuring out my order. So the brush that I had used before, that big brush, get some more translucent white on the palette. And this time I'm going to blot out the brush. And I'm going to go over and I'm going to be changing the shape. I'm not covering everything now. See? That's perfect. That's perfect. I have another brush that's really neat. Oh, where did it go? This is really cool. This thing here. That's kind of neat. All these brushes with these weird and wonderful shapes. Okay, dry that. All these nice interesting shapes now. Now we're going to be adding a layer of yellow, so make sure the white is completely dry. Because if the white is wet, all you're going to get is a tint smear. But if it's 100% dry, you're going to get a glaze that's going to be quite intense. And I like to start with the lighter color first, then build up the darkness on top of that. And I'm thinking, you know what? I'm wondering if I want to... I'm going to bring out some Hansa Yellow Light as well. And some water. So Hansa Yellow Light. And I'm just going to put it in this corner right here. Okay, like so. Rinse the brush. Then I'm going to take my paper towel. Preferably one that doesn't have any blue in it. And let's just soften that down a bit. You can still see through. And now a little bit of Stenciled yellow. And Stenciled yellow everywhere else. Over the whole piece. Now, you can see that's taking on a green tint. That's because there's still green showing through. So I could have gone in with a little bit more the white in the beginning. So you can still see all the splashes in there. Isn't that neat? Now if your paper towel is just smearing things around, you can also take a baby wipe and just press like this. That'll get everything wet, and when you lift it up, it'll pick up some stuff in a random area. If I want this butterfly to show through, I'll just kind of wipe back this butterfly. And if you happen to wipe off too much, like I did, you can always add more back. And then just splash. Okay, let's dry that. And when I say it's all about layering, you can layer your stencils wet on wet, like a wet layer. But the problem is the stencil will actually touch into the wet paint, which is why I prefer having everything dry in between. Makes less of a mess. So this is becoming very slick now because of the so much paint on there, and nice and very textured because of the stuff back here. You can feel through here. This is the part that I really like. I'm going to get another brush. Because the brush that I was using for the yellow is now in the bucket, which had white in it, okay, I do not want to contaminate my glazes. So I'm going to go to transparent yellow iron oxide now in a fresh brush. Not quite dark enough. I'm going to pick up a little bit of quinacridone gold. There we go. Quinacridone gold in the transparent yellow iron oxide. I'm going to wipe some of this back. That in water. I'm going to get a fresh. Oh, you know what? Let's try this. Sometimes this works, sometimes this doesn't. I haven't had much luck lately with this technique. If anything, it's just the contrast of colors. The paint might be a bit too wet. Oh, you get a little bit of something there. Not a lot. Not enough contrast. But that's okay because we're going to be stenciling a lot more over that. Oh, but you know what would work? If we just put DEF. The bigger stencils you can actually rub out. Okay. But you need the contrast, so your layers of glazing would need to be much more intense in contrast. Yeah, see, this one didn't quite show. Try that. It's about the owl, so you don't have to worry too much. We're going to be stenciling. We're going to actually doing stenciling now. So the owl here, and he's going to be stenciled with Payne's Gray. double check to make sure I have the right pressure. Yeah. And the type of brush you use, that's a personal preference. Sometimes I like using my number 8 Bristle Bright. Other times I like using this brush here. And it just depends. This is a flat brush, so the texture is going to be a little bit more even. Whereas if I use the domed brush or the number 8 Bristle Bright, it's very irregular. Try to stencil with a high contrast color, unless you're doing it just like what we were doing back here. And you want to try to avoid going back and forth this way. Your brush might actually get underneath the stencil. You see I'm going in all different areas because I don't want to go here in dark, 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 then move and it just gets lighter and lighter and lighter. So I'm moving around to keep the finish consistent, the amount of paint that I apply. See, a little bit too much paint here and it went underneath the stencil. And if you want to add another finish to this, and you leave the stencil where it is, and then add, let's say, some interference colors or whatever you want. There we go. Now, what I was trying to, I want to do it now. What I was trying to show you before was taking your stencil and putting it down. Not a lot of paint on here, but when you clean your, and this is a delicate stencil, so you got to be careful. If you have a lot of paint on the stencil, as you do this, you rub the paint onto whatever's below it. Okay, so think of like regular stenciling, but do this while cleaning your stencil. Just be careful with the pressure because, like I said, this is a much more delicate stencil. I'm going a little bit fast, so you take your time. See? That's what I was trying to show you. And cleaning your stencils, I let mine soak for a few minutes before actually cleaning them. There we go, see? And I'm going to be using this paper in another piece of artwork later on, which is why I'm doing that. And let's get our kaleidoscope on there. Okay, we'll have to get another stencil brush. We'll get the dome brush now. Now I'm going to stencil this one using the quinacridone gold. And as well, if your paper is very textured, like this one here on the underneath it is, your stenciling might be a little bit uneven, so don't worry about that if that happens. I kind of like it when the stencil, when the paint goes underneath the stencil. It gives it a grunge look. Now let's see if I can no, you know what? I'm not going to risk that. I was going to wipe the stencil out, but I don't want to lose any of the owl. This stencil can take a lot of abuse. The delicate ones you got to be so careful of. Okay, let's dry this. And I think I'm going to have to bring out some transparent red iron oxide. Where is it? And mister. Now this is DecoArt's mister. This is a regular opaque mister. Then they've got shimmer misters as well. And I am very, very messy when it comes to using these. So what I'm going to try to do is do that. And then grab, no, not that, palette paper. I'm going to grab some palette paper to use as a mask. So I'm thinking of that. And we'll see what happens. Now I did change the tops onto the misters to a more mist. The other ones more of a heavy stream. Beautiful. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to put that aside. Clean that right away. Whoops, I bent my stencil. I keep my stencils in page protectors. You just gotta be careful when you clean them. I can bring some of that color right in here. Okay. That's kind of cool too. I think I want to keep that. And you can use kitchen wipes or baby wipes. It doesn't really matter what you use. Just try to keep your stencils clean. Again, I'm going to soak mine in some 1000+ stain remover and water. And let's dry that. Probably could have gone for something a little bit darker than that. But watch what happens when we put the transparent red iron oxide on there. You could. No, the raw umber burnt up, but they're opaque, so that wouldn't work. Some of this stuff here. Where's that stencil? I want to. Yeah, that'll work. Stencil's a bit small though, but I'll use that anyways. I'm going to put the transparent red iron oxide now, and then I want to re-stencil the word learn. And what do I have for a brush that I can use? Oh, let's go to a flat brush. The color is going to be very close to what the spray is. Take some quinacridone burnt orange around the edges. Let's make the edges nice and dark. I'm going to take the baby wipe. Now I'm just going to pounce around where the owl is. Right about here somewhere. Now this is going to take timing. I'm going to just hit this with the heat gun just till it's almost dry. And the baby wipe, and then just pick some areas that are light and things that you want to focus on, and just rub. And what this is doing is giving a distressed look, like a grungy effect. I love that. And that's my butterfly. And you also want to try, and I am so guilty of not doing this, change your paper towel frequently. There we go. Let's let this dry again. And we're gonna do one more stencil. Then we can varnish and it'll be done. Let's stencil though with black. Let's stencil with some black. I can't stencil with the black because I'm actually stenciling a word. That's not going to work. Okay. My mind was in the right place. So I'm not going to tell you when I'm actually going to stencil. You're going to have to see. Oh yeah, I want to mix up the letters. Uppercase and lowercase. I can make them a little bit higher. Idea what I'm going to be putting down yet. This is the last thing we're going to do. Whoops, too much paint. So let's see what happens. I don't know if that's going to fit. Well, we'll try. Learn, then create. Now, if you wanted to distress this a little bit more, we'll start at the top. That end has a bit too much paint. So if you just fresh paper towel or baby wipe and just pick up a little bit. It makes it distressed there. The paint needs to be almost dry. Okay. This one for sure. If the paint is still very wet, it comes off a little bit easier. But you have to make sure you use a clean area. Otherwise, you're just going to be smudging paint. So that's like that. That's nice. Learn, then create. There we go. And you can, from here, I mean, it's just a matter of if you want to do a few more little things. I can take, let's see, yellow, a couple little buttons. You can't see them. You can't really see it. Let's try. You don't want them to be too dark. You just want to add a little something of interest. This will just make it green. There we go. A little bit of cerulean blue. Just makes it a little bit greener. Let's get the A in there. And with the way how many layers we've done now, you can easily wipe it off. It's actually kind of cool. Let's put 7, 8, 9 down here. And you don't have to do this. This is just adding a little something extra. And this is too late to clean now, so that's already dried up. But we can do this one. And from here, we're basically done. It was just an exercise on layering the stencils. Because this surface now is very slick, you could actually antique it. You could antique it using like some of the antiquing creams. And I know I said it was done. I'm going to use a stencil brush for this as well. And this best works on a non-porous surface. So something that's slick so you can wipe it back. The other thing you could use is the the name's left me. I've used it so many times. It's the paste, the waxy paste. Therefore, it's metallic paste. What is that called? It's completely slipped my mind. This would be great for a Halloween piece. You know what? I have to go get it and see. metallic luster. This is a nice wax you could use as well. You could use that to antique it. Now everybody's got their own way of antiquing the edge. Me, I just like to put it on and buff it out. So something like this. And then a paper towel. And just buff it out. And that's the way this stuff works as well. You buff it out so it's really, really shiny. And if you used some of the crackling mediums, like the crackle paste and that, this is pretty cool for that too. There we go, nice and dark. And with this as well, if you want to distress some areas, you can pull some areas out. See how it just really makes it really bright? So let's dry this. I'm going to put a layer of the ultra matte varnish on here. I'm going to show you how to do that. We'll be done. With the ultra matte varnish, I like using that, especially in journal pages, because the pages then won't stick together. But again, that depends on what you're using, so I would say try it first and see if that works for you. Where did it go? Ultra matte varnish. Always with a clean brush. And so just a layer like that. You can use, there's also the soft touch, which is really pretty. It's not quite satin. It's nice too. I like the matte look, especially if you're looking at doing stuff that's kind of grungy and distressed and stuff. There we go. Now this I would let dry naturally, but I'm going to show you what it looks like. I'm going to use the heat gun to speed up the drying time. You've got more time than I do. You know how I said we had 3 minutes? Well, now we're a lot over the scheduled time for the video. Just going to use the heat gun just to dry it so you can see. So you see how shiny it is now? But I recommend you do this, you let it air dry. See how it's becoming matte? And there's the shine. So I'll get, here we go, you can see it there. There, see the effect? I love the look, absolutely love the look. There we go. All finished. Learn, then create. So I hope that you picked up some little tips and techniques on stenciling, some different ideas, antiquing, layering, glazing, and apply it to one of your own pieces of art. So I hope you enjoyed this, and until next time, stay inspired.